helper library called Kinesis events.
Okay.
And this library lets you parse Kinesis events. There's probably a way to do it natively, but it's not pretty. And this guy broke it all down for us and gave us an easy to use API for working with him. Gordon's calling me. 1 second. On with Pita. Oh,
Is there a way to conference in Discord? Go ahead.
All right, so we're going to use this library, but as you know, in Lambda, there isn't a super easy way to use third-party libraries with their Lambda GUI.
Right.
So
you have to create layers.
Well, there's two ways to do it. If you want to do it through the GUI, you can create a layer, which has the packages that you care about, and then attach the layer to the Lambda. But when you create a layer, you're uploading a zip file that has the libraries you care about. And if you're only, in this case, caring about one library, then the layer is complete overkill. You just want to, when you create a function from scratch, let's edit a function so we don't create a new one. But when you create a function, you can edit it in here up to a certain amount of megabytes, as long as your function isn't bigger than X amount of megabytes. Or you can upload a zip file, just like you create a layer. You can create a function in the same way.
Okay, but like, let's say I'm in Node, and I do, let's say, npm install serverless. I have to now upload serverless as a zip file.
Well, serverless is a bad example.
Okay.
Let's do like Kinesis events.
Okay, Kinesis events.
All right, so let's take a step back here. In your IDE, let's make sure you have serverless installed. So in your terminal, do like SLS space --v maybe -v. Yeah, do one of those. See if you get any output.
SLS/v. Oh, just SLS-v. Okay, I get run. It says update available. Run npm install global serverless to update. So I've got something that's just not updated. You want me to run the update?
Yep.
Okay, it's doing its thing. I kind of use a different computer for this stuff, but it says the operation was rejected by your. I have to do sudo. Still extracting stuff. I bet you Sam has a Mac too, huh?
He does.
Okay, it's updated.
All right, I'm gonna say demo is
Wait a second. It says new minor version of NPM available 6.10 to 6.13.7. Run. It wants me to run it again. Is that what it's saying?
Now it wants you to update NPM. You can ignore that for now.
Okay. You don't use NPM anymore, as I recall. What do you use?
Right. I use Yarn.
Like YARN?
Yep.
And do you use NPM to install Yarn?
No. It's an executable. You have to download it.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Continuing, Professor.
All right. So now you should have an empty directory, right? Or do you have shit in your directory already?
No, it's a new project, so I gave it a name, event, stream, and that's it. It's nothing in it,
Okay, create a new file. And you're going to call it serverless.yml.
New file, serverless.yml. YAML. Okay.
All right, so this is going to be your blueprint for how you're going to interact with your AWS account. All right, so we're going to script this. We're going to do it all here, and we're never going to have to mess with the console. Now, alternatively to creating a serverless.yml file, you could just as easily run a command in here in the root of your new directory. Command is this: serverless create -- template space AWS Node.js.
Okay, I'm not just making a note of this for future reference. You don't want to do that right now, right? Or do you?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Let's do it right now for fun.
Okay, so I'm down here in the root, and I'm going to type. What am I typing again? Where to go?
I sent it to you in Discord. Before we run this command, though, go ahead and delete that serverless YAML file that we just created.
Okay, so I'll delete that. Okay, and the goal here, just so I make sure I'm following this, is that this is a way to get dependencies up into your function.
Yep.
Using serverless.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I'm going to show you how to do it without serverless.
Okay.
Actually, then I'm going to show you how to do it without serverless, and then show you a way to do it manually, but still be able to use serverless to help you do it.
Yeah. Okay. It's deleted. So serverless.
All right, so now run that command.
Create. Whoops. Went by so fast I couldn't see it. Hold on a second. You say it's in Discord?
Yeah. So you can run serverless or SLS. Those are interchangeable. So like the command is serverless create, but you could do SLS create, and it's the same command. SLS is just a shorter version to execute serverless things.
Gotcha. Okay, so it did the same thing as yours did.
Cool. All right. So now if you go and look at this serverless.yaml file, you'll see a lot of commented code.
Wait a second. It didn't do that. Serverless is not a subcommand. Run serverless create. That's what I did. I just pasted in your command, serverless. Okay. Hold on a second, please. I gotta type it in serverless create template AWS Node.js. said templates, template AWS node.js is not supported. Supported templates are, and then it's listing out a bunch of supported templates.
Did you just copy paste what I gave you?
Yeah, well, it was easier to just type serverless create space dash dash template space AWS dash node.js.
Well,
Right?
it's not Node. No, it's not Node.js. It's just Node.js.
Oh, okay. There's the problem. Sorry. Okay, now it looks like yours. It's got the little serverless application framework, blah, blah, blah. Successfully
Awesome. All right.
generated.
Awesome. In that serverless.yaml file, you're going to notice a ton of commented code. Go ahead and delete all of that commented code.
Okay, serverless
What you're left with.
Okay, so the whole thing seems to be commented. Let me see, right down to service. So get rid of anything with a pound sign, right?
Yep, get rid of all the green text. Well, it might be green in your IDE. I don't know.
So it's what's left is service, provider,
and functions.
And functions. That would be correct. Of course, functions has a bunch of commented stuff too, which I will delete. Okay.
Cool. So now you've got service, provider, and functions. Let's give this service a name. So for me, it's just going to be, I'm going to call this Newell -demo. Give yours a unique name. So something.
Okay. I called it agent event stream viewer.
Cool. All right. Provider, we've just got the name, which is AWS, and the runtime, which is Node.js 12.
Correct.
We've got functions here, a hello function, and a handler for that function. And it's saying this handler is at handler.hello. So if we look in our root directory here, we see a handler.js file.
Correct.
We go in there and we see that it's proclaiming that there is a hello export. So
module exports.hello.
Yep. So handler.hello then is speaking about that exports, the module.exports.hello.
Gotcha.
So all this is doing is saying there is a function. We're going to call it hello, and its handler lives here. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a directory in the root of our project, and we're going to call this functions.
Okay. New directory called functions.
We're going to move handler into that directory.
Okay. Done.
And now we're going to go back to serverless.yaml, and we're going to change this path to functions /handler.hello. And let's give our function name, our handler name, a better name than hello.
Okay.
So call it something that makes sense to you.
Okay.
All right, so for me, I'm going to change my handler to login.
I'll call it the same thing, just now I assume we have to go back and rename. Go ahead.
So there's 3 places you have to change it. You have to change it in the handler.js. So module.exports.login now instead of .hello.
Right.
And then in the serverless.yaml, you want to change it in the handler path, but then also as the name of the function in the YAML property.
Wait a second here. So in serverless YAML, I've got that open. And I can see where it says functions, login, handler, functions, handler dot hello. I'm going to change hello to login. Right?
Yes.
Okay, and you said a third place.
The third place is in handler.js.
Well, handler.js had one, right? I changed hello.
Right.
Module exports login got changed to module exports.login. And serverless, I only see one in the YML file under functions. You said three. I'll count two.
So in the serverless.yaml file, there's.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
This one.
I see it. Okay. Now I know how you can go. Gotcha.
All right. Now I'm going to throw you another curveball here. As you can see, this isn't a very good naming convention because we're probably in most projects going to have more than one function. And if our function is named handler,
that's not going to work.
And that's kind of weird. Now, we could do that where we have multiple exports out of this file. So like our login handler would be everything in this code. And then if we were going to also have something else, we could do shit like that. But still, in my opinion, that's not a very good way to do this. So let's change this file name away from handler to what we're doing. So we'll change this to login.js.
Okay, let me find how to change the name here. There's got to be a way to rename this, right? I could probably just do a save as, right?
Should be able to right click it and rename it.
I right click, I'm looking for rename. I don't see rename. I see close, split, move right, tabs, boom, option, add favorites, run.
Are you right clicking it in the tree, like in the file structure editor, or the tab?
Do it in the tab. Hold on a second. Let's do it here and see if that'll let me do it. Where did you do it? On the tab or in the folder list?
In the folder. Has to be done in the folder.
And you just right clicked it. I right click it. I don't see a change my name or rename option. Hold on a second. You want to call it what?
Login. Or whatever your function name is.
My function name. And that's a JavaScript file, right? Oh, come on, let's just. Sorry, it'll take long. Okay. Okay, I've got a function named login now.
Awesome. All right. So in that function, do you have this code still?
Yeah.
All right, good. Now we're going to change module.exports.login to module.exports.handler.
Module exports.login currently says async event. And you want me to get rid of async event, change it to handler?
Nope, we're going to change the export name to handler. So what currently says login, you're going to change
Yeah.
that from login to handler.
Okay. All right.
So we flipped it, right? Before the file name was handler and the export name was login.
All right.
Now the file name is login and the export name is handler. This will
Right.
allow us to have many functions, and the naming convention will be similar. So save that, and then go back to serverless.yaml, and we need to change this handler path now, because it's not functions /handler.login anymore. It's really functions /login.handler. And the function name is still login.
Okay.
Cool. So save that as well. Now, what this lets us do, you don't need to do this part, but let me just show you what this allows us to do. So now when we have a logout function, we can simply create that file, come in here.
Just make some changes here.
Come in here and say, all right, now we have a logout function as well, and its handler is found here. See how neat and tidy that is?
Yeah.
All right, but we don't really need a logout. So what we're left with is a pretty neat and tidy reference to a function that right now is doing nothing that we want it to do. So let's go to that code that I sent you in Discord. Copy it in here.
Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I just got to copy that at Discord. Where are we pasting it?
We're pasting it in login.js.
Okay, whereabouts does it matter?
You're replacing everything in there with it.
Oh, don't keep the server. We're in the login.js, which currently has service providers and functions. We're going to erase all of that and put in this new function. Correct?
No, your login.js file should have JavaScript code, not your service provider and functions. That's your serverless.yaml file. So you have a YAML file and a JavaScript file within a functions directory, right? So open up your login.javascript file and remove all of the code that's in there, the boilerplate code, and replace it with the code I sent you.
Okay. So login.js is now basically the Lambda function you sent me.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
That should be all it is. The only thing in this file should be the code I sent you.
Correct.
All right, now that issue you ran into earlier is because this export command is not recognized by node 12.
Okay.
So it's expecting a different way of doing this. So it's very similar. You're going to change it that.
Okay.
All right, so now we've got some JavaScript that Node 12 can recognize. We've got a serverless YAML file that is declaring one function in this service. We should have a unique service name. Within our login.js file, we're making reference to a package called Kinesis Events. Right now, our project knows nothing about that, right? So we don't even have a node modules folder yet. So in this file in your terminal, or in this directory in your terminal, you're going to want to initialize this. So for you, it's npm init. And just hit enter through all the questions.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have a package.json file, right?
Correct.
Cool, and this should be very little in here, and we don't really care about that. What this lets us do, though, is now we can run npm install Kinesis events.
Let me get that again. So we want to do npm. Come on. npm. Go ahead. That was npm install.
And then the package name that we want to install is called Kinesis events.
Okay. And who wrote that? That guy you got?
Yep.
GitHub. Okay. Okay.
All right, so now in your package.json file, you should see a new dependencies property with one entry, Kinesis events, and the version should be 3.0.0. You see that?
In my package, it says events. I'm trying to compare it to yours. I don't have that dependency.
Did you do the npm install?
Okay. Okay, 3.0. Uh-huh.
Is that the only dependency you have in there, or is there something else in there now too?
Under dependencies, it just says Kinesis, just the same as yours.
Cool. All right, so now locally, we have everything we need for this to work, right? But we want to deploy this in the cloud. So
can you go back to your serverless YAML file, please, and copy that and stick it in Discord? Okay, thank you.
make sure your service is a different name.
My service is going to be which one? Okay.
Just make sure it's not mine.
Does it have to match something else? Go ahead. I changed your name to my name.
All right.
I slipped here and it overwrote that. Go ahead.
So now what we're going to do is SLS deploy.
Okay, and that's the same as typing serverless.
Yep.
It's kind of just hanging there, but I guess it takes time.
Do you see any output?
you're getting status stuff. Kinesis events added 2 packages from 2 contributors and audited 2 packages, found 0 vulnerabilities. Okay, I'm not getting any status information here. SLS deploy. Okay, carry on. I'm conscious of your time here. I'm recording this so I can study it. So
I want you to follow along. So what is it doing on your side?
It's just sitting there. When I say SLS deploy, it's not throwing up. It's not giving an error. It's just blinking at me.
And you did SLS space deploy?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a command line still, or did it take
I can
that?
get one easy enough. I can just Control C and get it.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Type in AWS config year.
AWS config, all one word.
Configure.
I probably need, yeah, that's what the problem is. I don't have AWS, what do you call it, the CLI?
Yeah, you don't have that?
Apparently not. So if I just do an npm, can I install that with npm?
I remember getting AWS CLI installed was kind of a pain, but it's been so long since I've done it, and I've never done it.
I know I have it on the computer I use for writing code. It's a different computer. But go ahead, continue.
Okay. All right. So this deployment, when I entered it, it goes through, gives you some status. It's creating a CloudFormation stack for you. And the CloudFormation stack is going to be the name of the service that you gave it. And it noticed, it looked at our YAML file, noticed that there was a function. It found that function and uploaded it here. And then when it's done, it tells you what it did. So this did very little for us, right? All it really did was created a function called login. And here's the name of that function in our portal.
Okay, but what it also did was to upload the dependencies that this little function needed, which was the Kinesis events.
Exactly.
Okay, so the Kinesis events are now a layer someplace?
Nope, they're just part of the function. So if we look at login, we see that function now here.
Yeah.
And if I go look at this function, we see within node modules that Kinesis events is built into it.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so just let me regurgitate what I think you're trying to explain to me. There are several options to get dependencies up into AWS Lambda. This one was a simple one. We didn't really need a function called login, but we're just using that to demonstrate how to get use serverless, number one, to get a dependency installed in the function.
Right. So for you, you'll want this function. So for your purposes, this function here can be your function, right? I mean, it's doing what you want it to, it's doing all the things.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It contains the code we wanted anyway. Gotcha.
Right, with access to the package it needs and everything.
Right. Okay, but I mean, the takeaway from the tutorial is use serverless when you've got just a simple where do you draw the line between using serverless to upload dependencies versus creating layers? Or do you ever create layers?
I created layers for Dextr because so many functions are using the same things.
Yeah. Okay, so the second takeaway is that this Kinesis events is only available to this function.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's the negative of using this strategy. If it's a layer, then we can reuse it. Layers are reusable.
Right. Layers are reusable, but if you are trying to create a layer that all your functions and all your projects can use, that layer is going to get quite big. And keep in mind, any function that uses that layer has to then pull all the things it has to consume the whole layer to get you the file you need.
Oh, okay. So if I've got 10 dependencies loaded in my layer, but this function only needed one, I'm going to be penalized because I'm wasting time in processing because I had to consume the other 9. Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So another thing you can do in this serverless.yaml is create, this can be a serverless project that manages your layer too. So instead of just creating a function, we could pull up the serverless docs and just type in layer, AWS layers configuration. So there's very similar code. Instead of function hello, it's layers hello. And now it's creating a layer for me with all of the things I have installed locally. And then anytime you want to add anything, it's really easy to come in here and just npm install a package and then SLS deploy the layer again.
Gotcha. Very excellent.
But all right, so that's how to do it just 100% in serverless. But in this case, serverless, so layers were super overkill. Serverless is also a little bit overkill for this. What's nice about serverless is
you do everything with serverless, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I use it for everything.
Right.
But there is a really cool command called SLS package. And I want to run this command instead of deploy. And what it's doing is creating this little serverless directory for me. And within it, there is a cnewell demo.zip. So I'm going to go look at that.
Is that like it's like the equivalent of a package JSON?
This .serverless directory?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it has the serverless state. It has all of the information. Serverless needs to deploy this, but it didn't deploy it. I just asked it to package it for me. So just package this function. Don't actually deploy it. Just package it for me. And when it packaged it, it created this zip file. So I'm going to go look at that zip file in my in Windows Explorer. And what you're going to see is essentially
the same thing.
This root structure that we have here, right? I mean, it's essentially the same thing, except it's got all of my things here. And what you're going to notice is this file structure here that it packaged up for me is identical to the file structure that we see within Lambda, right? So that's literally what was deployed. So the reason I'm showing you this is if we didn't want to use serverless at all, we could literally just in our Windows Explorer highlight everything in our root directory and send it to a zip.
Right. And then
come in here and upload it, and you're getting the same thing.
Gotcha.
So when you have projects that require third-party libraries, obviously you're working with them locally, and if you want to get them and the libraries that you need into Lambda, zip up your project and upload it. But it has to follow this structure of it has to be a zip, and in the root of your zip, you need to have a package.json that that tells Lambda what packages are needed, right? Because in here,
right,
it tells us, hey, this code is dependent on this library, and that library exists, right? Because we installed it. And then this will work too. So you could literally just do this without serverless, without layers, just by zipping up your local project.
gotcha.
But when you do serverless, you get some benefits. So now that this project is a serverless project and it's deployed, I could, if we ever decide we don't want this anymore, we could do serverless remove, and it'll go remove that stack. It'll remove everything it deployed, right? So that's helpful for drift detection and things like that, to make sure that loose ends aren't hanging out everywhere. But another really cool thing, a frustration with cloud computing, is your development environment and your production environment, and testing it in each environment. So like locally, if I wanted to test this login function, I could go to cd functions and then do node.js, or I'm sorry, node login, and then node will just run that, right? But that's not very helpful, because this is dependent on a Kinesis event, and
Gotcha.
we're not creating an event. What you can do with serverless is do SLS invoke -f for function, and then type in login, and this will actually go deploy that function in the cloud for you where it's deployed. Similarly, it's not very helpful because we didn't give it an event, right? There is no event in there, so it just returned an empty object. But this is really, really helpful for testing your code in the cloud. Because with serverless, what I can do is define a file and say mock event.json, right? And then define the event here. And then when I do SLS invoke login, I can give it the mock like this, and it'll feed that event into the invocation. And then you can see how it's going to respond.
Excellent. Mock. Okay. All right. Very informative. Thank you for viewing.
Cool.
So,
all good.
Wait a second here. So